Welcome back to the Shatterproof Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Reeb, and today we're thrilled to welcome Andrea Brunswick, a dynamic entrepreneur and mindset coach who's dedicated to empowering women over 50, which I identify with because I'm over 50. With nearly 2 decades of experience, she specializes in helping them break free from limiting beliefs and achieve significant personal breakthroughs and build shatterproof lives. So, Andrea, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, Scott. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And I
Man, it's
love
my
the
pleasure.
pictures behind you. I love those pictures of those
Thank
men
you.
behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, those are people that have influenced me over the years through uh, in person and through books and tapes because I'm old and CDs, right? There's lots of different ways that I've been able to deal with those mentors. Well, but today is about you and your entrepreneurial journey. So tell me a little bit more about who you work with and how you do it.
So as we said, I work with women and I've always worked with women. There was a few families that I worked with and a few youth, like older teens throughout my career, but it is primarily women. And it was only as of a couple of years ago that my niche, I think, I guess, in that world of entrepreneurship and in the online world, my niche has kind of shifted a little bit in terms of the avatar, really. But overall, if I really think about it, as I've aged since I've been doing this business, so has my clients. So we've kind of
Yeah.
aged together. And I really was paying attention, firstly, from my own life of knowing, especially, listen, you've got the awesome men behind you, and they were very much about creating your plan, create your 5-year plan and your 10 and have your goals. But life sometimes kicks your rear end, and those plans that you set and those goals that you made don't ever happen. And it leaves one feeling, I know how it left me feeling very frustrated, in a sense, bewildered and defeated, because life sometimes can really make us feel defeated. And I know that it had done that to me through personal losses. Why I got into coaching was because I woke up one morning and my husband didn't. He had passed away in his sleep.
Mm.
I had turned 40, he had just turned 41, and we
Oh,
had two
wow.
small kids. Yeah. And that changed the whole trajectory of my life, right? So as I've been coaching and was coaching, and I'm not necessarily a grief coach per se, but it's always at that 6 month or that year after the loss, they felt really stuck. How do you move out of grief? Well, that's out of one situation, but if we really think about it and remove the word grief, how often one can feel stuck and not really know how to move forward. So it was, as I was saying, sorry, I'll circle it back around. A couple of years ago, I thought, I really honestly, I never really liked the term life coach. I don't know why. I think
Hmm.
when I got into the industry, nobody really was hearing about coaching, especially here in Ontario and Canada. It was big in LA and it was big in the west of Canada and Vancouver, but in my region, so people would say, "So, Andrew, what do you do?" And I'd go, "Oh, I'm a life coach." And then you'd get that deer in the headlight look, like, "What is that?" And then I would do my very best to explain it, and the deer in the headlight look got even worse. So in any case, a couple years ago, I was doing a Christian group in terms of for wealth, creating wealth, and it was in one of the coaching sessions, and one of the coaches said, "Andrea, I really see you as the creative life strategist," and I was like, "Yes." Creative. It felt more free, because at the end of the day, really, what does a coach do? We give you strategies, we load up a toolbox for you so that you hopefully can create a shatterproof life, because sometimes it will shatter, but you'll know how to put it back together. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think you did. I
I
think you
think I
definitely
did,
did.
but I'm not sure, Scott.
But I'll just keep asking questions.
Okay, you do
So
that.
to get,
Yeah.
we'll kind of just keep narrowing it down. So you're a creative life strategist.
For the woman
Uh,
over 50 who's
okay.
frustrated because
Yeah.
she's finding where she's at and she's not happy and she doesn't know how she got there.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you how you get there. It's through your thoughts. It's
Okay.
those thoughts that you keep picking up that are attached to those same emotions and those feelings that you allow, because this world and the personal development arena in which I played in for 3 decades sells us this thing that we are our thoughts and we are our feelings, but we are not our thoughts and we are not our feelings, and we identify far too much. Now, I say that with great confidence because it was only a couple of years ago that I gave my life to Christ. And now that I'm learning the word of my father and learning things in a very different way, I can see how and if it happened to me, I am not the only one, was sold and bought a whole pack of lies and was very much attached and kept doing that work. Do your inner work, do your inner work, and it really makes you feel like a rat on the wheel.
Okay. This is why. So now we know why you're on the show. Okay. Because
Yeah,
listen to what I mean. I reach out into the world of social media and trying to find people to bring to you that have valuable stories and insights. And I did not know Andrea before today, and so I always wonder, why are they on the show? What is the thing? And this is the thing. Andrea's new new to Christ, and it's changed not just her life, it's changed the way she does business, because she now has a different understanding of what's going on with people and why they're shattered, and who can put them back together and how to help them do that.
right.
Yeah.
And it
So,
also showed me why I was shattered. And it
yeah.
really showed me why my life was shattered
Mm.
for a long time. But I
Yeah.
guess
So,
God had a plan for me to be able to learn those things so that I would know with all this confidence that it doesn't have to be like that.
yeah. So, you and I live in this world because I'm a coach as well, and I think it's very important to have a positive outlook on life.
Yes,
Um, you can accomplish a whole lot more in life with being positive about it than negative about it. Um, and our thoughts are important, but like you said, they aren't who we are.
right.
We are a son or daughter of Christ, and we're created in His image, and not how we think. But it does have an effect on us, right? I mean, if
Oh,
we're
listen,
what Zig would say,
100%
stinking, if you have stinking thinking, or you need
thinking, right.
a checkup from the neck up, because there is something going wrong in there. So, I mean,
Well, listen, it's a
help me with
battleground. It's a
this.
war zone between our two ears, right?
Okay.
It's a war zone up here.
So help me. So help me. How do we do that? So all this positive thinking, all this stuff that we've read about for years, how do you put these together with
Oh, that's a great question, Scott.
with your
Okay.
Christian now worldview?
Yeah. So I had to take some time off from doing things because it was only at the beginning of 2021, like literally at the beginning of that year, when I was still playing very much in the world.
Hmm.
Um, and when I say of the world, I mean I had been studying personal development
Yeah.
since my mid 20s, the law of attraction,
Yeah.
personal growth. I call those the old boys club, Brian Tracy, the Bob Proctors.
Yeah.
Okay, they were very much my influence from the time I was 24. They played a huge part for me. So I believed a lot of stuff. I believed a lot of stuff. As I said, at the beginning of 2021, I heard God say to me one morning, "This is your year to unlearn, Andrea." And I was like, okay, what is it that I need to unlearn? Well, he quickly showed me. I thought he wanted me to unlearn from the male mentors that I silently had in my life,
Yeah.
right? And to study more female mentors, but no, that was not what he meant. And I don't want to make this story too long-winded, but at that point, I had just gone on Clubhouse. I don't know if you're familiar with Clubhouse.
Yes.
Okay. So and one of my biggest books, because of course in the world and in personal development, it's very pushed on you, is the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
You bet.
I've gotten rid of that
We've all
book.
read it.
I've got rid of that book because I found out it was a whole big fat lie. But in any case, I find this room saying Think and Grow Rich Sis. And I thought, oh, I got to go in because we're probably going to talk about the book. And then we're going to be able to talk about chapters. And this is so exciting. Well, the moderator of the room says I am a business coach for brilliant female Christian entrepreneurs. And I went, all right, whatever. It doesn't matter that they're Christian and I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm in a room with other females and other entrepreneurs. Well, that really, and I stayed. And I stayed in this room because what I recognized, Scott, it was like, now I am born a Jew. So I consider myself more like of a messianic.
Yep.
Just combining the both. But it was like, I thought, wow, it's like a Shem. My father took me by the hand. Like I remembered when I went to kindergarten for my first time and my mom had my hand and she walked me into my teacher. I felt like my father brought me here and he's brought me here for a reason. So I stayed. And then that set me because I've always been curious and a seeker and always thought I was seeking out God, but I didn't understand that. See, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't know a lot of the things where I was going and what I was playing with, like Buddhism and the Eastern philosophies of meditation. I didn't know that that was counterfeit. I had no idea. Now, you see, now, Scott, I can see why my life blew up.
Yeah.
I can see it clearly now. And I'm so grateful that I can see it. Okay. How has everything changed? Because now my work, you know, you're a coach and you know how personal and intimate it is with your client, especially if you're doing life coaching. Life is very intimate. So now I'm not gonna lead them to things that are going to cause their life to blow up. Even though my clients always had massive success from working with me. But when I think back to tools that I was arming them up with, right? So just as an example, so the world tells us to do personal affirmations, right?
Yes.
Affirm, make your personal affirmations. Well, now I take the personal scriptures that Jesus and my Father has given to me in the Holy Ghost, and those are now my affirmations. And I don't think I sent you, so I will after if you would love, because I'd love, I have 2 free gifts. I have them now because I've been doing all of these podcasts. But one of them is a prayer journal that I was given from God, and it's called Stamp It on Your Heart. And it's a way to be able to meditate on the scriptures in a very creative, fun way.
Nice.
So, yeah. So I've always been open and honest with anybody that I'm working with, whether, you know, they're for just a complimentary session or they're with me long term. I don't pussyfoot around. Yes, now, in terms of my languaging, yeah, I got cleaned up a little bit there. But I really want women, and I'm so glad to be on your podcast and be able to share my message because it's very seducing. The world and the personal development arena and even psychology is very seductive and seducing, and it makes us always feel like there's something more. I remember when The Secret came out, yeah, and making you feel like it's that whole big upsell, that what I call the old boys club. That's what they trained us to do: sell from the stage, sell them one thing, but upsell them to the next, then upsell them to the next, but never fully give them, never fully give them. But no, you got to fully give and you can't hold back. So now I really feel how blessed I am to show women where they no longer need to identify themselves through what friends define them as, what family defines them as, what the world or their job or even their children define them as, because we really are defined through Christ and our identification there. And I cannot begin to tell you the amount of inner peace that I've received since I got a hold of this knowledge. Hosea 4:6 hit me like, so you're probably old enough. Remember, boom, I could have had a V8.
That's right.
Well, that was that one, because I realized, see, we have to be willing to really admit truths. And when I heard that scripture that my people are perishing for a lack of knowledge, I took that and then I took it because I could see my people, my peeps, my Jewish people, how we
Yeah.
were perishing, and I
Yeah.
could see the disobedient, and I could very much relate to certain things. Like I feel like I've been in the wilderness for the last flipping 40 years of,
Mm-hmm.
of my life. Like they were in the wilderness for 40 years. No, I've been in the wilderness for 40 years, but I was perishing. I kept seeking more and doing more and hiring another business coach or
Mm-hmm.
hiring this coach, and I was like, it will leave you. It will suck the life out of you, and it makes you keep searching for yourself, and like you feel like you've never found yourself. You're not going to find yourself. Nothing. Now, yes, I can't say it's for everybody, because law of attraction does work for some people.
Hey there, it's Scott Reed, cutting in for a quick moment. If you're enjoying the podcast and finding value in our discussions, you're going to love the Access Plan. It's designed for entrepreneurs like you, offering unlimited legal advice without the worry of high hourly fees. With the Access Plan, you can get the legal support you need at a flat monthly rate so you can focus on growing your business with confidence. Head over to reblaw.com/access to learn more and join Access now and get busy shatterproofing your business. Now let's get back to our amazing guest. Yeah, I mean, wow, that's you said a lot, and you told me you would. The Yeah, there's a whole bunch of gobbledygook out there uh, that may work, um, but There's a better way that you found 2 years ago, and there's a whole lot of people that can identify with Hosea 4:6 and that are wandering in the desert. And hopefully they're listening to us today. And you mentioned that you have some tools that you're now giving out, other than Think and Go Rich, and we could name others. Um, so, what tools do you use now in your business?
Mm, I use my prayer journal, stamp it on your heart.
Okay.
I really use the Bible now, and in a way, because I'm really just learning. I'm at the start. Okay, I'm not a baby Christian anymore. Maybe I'm a teenager now, but it is about the studying. And I said, when God spoke to me that I needed to unlearn, I promised that as much dedication as I had given to studying modalities like tapping and NLP, which were a lot of the things that I used to use,
Yeah.
that I would study, and I would give that same, if not more, amount of energy to learning. So how do I do it now? It's in a really open and honest way, and we're really taking the Bible as the major tool. And now I still would offer meditation, but now I offer it in a very different way, getting them to understand. This morning, I was actually on a woman's podcast, a Christian podcast. It was talking about manifesting, because at the end of the day, we're always manifesting. There's no way you can't manifest. We just manifest the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Oh, yeah.
but we don't. So it's still really taking a look at your thoughts and really learning how to take them captive, and making sure that your thoughts are not above the word, and learning how to read and understand and have that conversation, and truly what it means to submit. You know, in the coaching industry and in psychology, was all about your ego.
Mm-hmm.
Your ego's running. Da, 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 ba, 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 ba. Well, that very well might be true, but it's our flesh. So now I want people to really fully understand that our flesh, we need to get our flesh to submit. We're still here. We still need to heal the soul, because our soul has been kicked around and kicked around. And a lot of us are walking around with these gaping holes, and we're just like bleeding. We're literally bleeding all over people. So it's about learning how to, you cut and you're bleeding, apply pressure. Well, now we're going to apply God. So some of my tools are tweaking. The tools are tweaking, because to be
Okay.
truthful with you, Scott, I'm still want to make sure that things that I would use are not in a contradiction to the
through the
word of the
word.
Father. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because you've said multiple times that God speaks to you and has given you things, which is amazing. But those things then have to match up to the word. If they conflict with the word, then there's a problem, and so then you have to go back. So it always goes back to the word. Um, so I mean, you're still new at coaching from a Christian
I
perspective,
am.
for sure, that's great. So how? I mean, when you're coaching somebody, at some point you have to give them some practical
Yes, so I'm going to
action
give you
steps, right?
practical. Journaling was always a very big
Okay,
practical tool
there you
to
go.
give to a client because we need to. I still will show them how to do a simple brain dump because a brain dump is a very productive thing. And that is a great way to get rid of those lies and those thoughts. It's a great way to take things captive. And because I have an art background, social work background, it's like, jack of all trades, master of none sometimes with that thing, but I like to combine them all, which is what I did with the Stamp It on Your Heart prayer journal, a way to get creative. We can get creative with our journaling. We can get really creative with our taking our thoughts captive and feel freer to do it. Um, Something I always recommended to clients is they're on your, if I only can speak for an iPhone because that's what I have,
Me
but I'm
too.
sure on Android phones they have it. There's that the voice memo app where you
Yes.
can record things. So I would have them record their scriptures or their words and then listen back to it at night and put those headphones in and listen. So really it's about meditation, brain dumping, and journal. And I think in terms of the conversations that take place in the sessions, and then in terms of the assignment that I would give a client from one session but in between the sessions, it's really having them learn how to identify. Oh, there's that thought again. There's that lie again. I got to take that one captive. Learning and teaching them, which is something that I've
Yeah.
been thrilled to learn, is this authority that I have because I'm born
Nice.
again, that authority that I have through Christ,
Yeah.
and how to use that. Do a lot of role modeling with them.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. So you've said several times taking thoughts captive. So you're talking about 2 Corinthians 10:5. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And that's a great verse. Easy to say it.
Hard to do it,
How do
or
you do it?
challenging to do it.
Yeah. How do you do it?
Well, as I
Dun, dun,
said
dun.
a little bit earlier, there has to be a willingness.
Yeah.
I love Dr. Phil. I've loved him for years. And he says, whatever you do not acknowledge, you cannot change. So if you want to stay on the insanity train, no one's going to stop you. I, as your
Yeah.
coach, am not going to stop you. But you really need to get honest with yourself. The same way I had to get honest with myself with Hosea 4:6. We need to really take a look and take a responsibility and be accountable. And that's a hard thing to do. And
Yeah.
deal with women over 50, it's about having them understand the importance of making peace with where they find themselves at this moment. Because if you
Okay.
don't, you're going to stay stuck. What we resist persists.
Yeah. So, Dr. Phil, if you're listening, I want you on the show. Come on the show with
Yeah,
us.
come on,
I'll bring
Dr.
Andrea
Phil.
back too, and she can take part in it. But we'd love to have you on the show. So you kind of didn't answer my question, so I'm going to come back.
Yeah, that's
So
fine. No, no,
you're
no, that's
telling
fine.
you're telling these women over 50 that you're working with that they're supposed to take their thoughts captive. Tell us
Well,
practically
first they have to identify
how do
that
we do
thought.
that? Okay,
Well,
step
first you
one,
really, yeah, you really need to
identify the thought.
you really have to identify your thought. And you have to start becoming more aware of the languaging that you're using and that narrative that you've been saying. So when I say languaging, I mean the story, how
Hang on,
you
stop you
speak.
again.
Yeah.
Why is that important from a biblical standpoint?
Okay. So from a biblical standpoint, and I don't know all of the scriptures because I am just learning, but there is, what is it? Life and death in the power of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
What you speak, you create. what you think, you create. So we have to take a look at what we've been creating. I know I'm a very big lover of hindsight. That expression, hindsight is 2020,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think we need to stay in our past, for sure not. But our past has a lot of answers for us, and the answers to where. So when I'm working with you, I really need to know what's been that story that you've been saying about whatever specific thing and circumstance in is taking place in your life that you really just you want no more of. You really want to wash your hands of it. You want to let it go. You want to be able to surrender yourself. How do I go about this? It really is a process, and it's having them learn how to trust, not the world, not really even me as their coach, but to really put their trust in this process and this journey that God has them on. Now, not all of my clients are Christian, and that doesn't matter, but as long as they acknowledge that there's a God and they're willing, the same way I went in that room that day on Clubhouse and it was filled with female Christian entrepreneurs. I didn't care that I wasn't Christian, and they didn't care that I wasn't Christian. And ultimately, what ended up coming out of that was I ended up giving my life to Christ, because it set me on my own journey to start to understand things and put the puzzle. Listen, I've always believed our life is to connect the dots. You can connect your dots. One will connect to another, to another, to another. So taking it, we're going to take those thoughts captive, acknowledge, recognize, pay attention, stop, stop distracting yourself, stop zoning out and zone in. Let's zone in. And it's through the assignments really that I give to them of what they come back with. And that really speaks the volumes, if that makes sense to
So
you.
yeah, it does. So what's one exercise that the audience can do to identify the negative story that they're telling themselves?
Well, I would have them write out a story about themselves, maybe even just the last year. Just really encapsulate. I'm sure, I think you guys had this in the United States. Cole's Notes. Do you
Cole's
remember the
notes.
Cole's Notes? The
Uh-huh.
synopsis of all of the books. And it
Oh,
was
sure.
really, yeah, it was really big to read, especially when we're studying Shakespeare, because didn't
Ours was
understand
Cliff's
it.
notes.
Okay. So you want to do a synopsis of your life, the synopsis of the last year, the synopsis of whatever that circumstance is taking place. Okay. Mm, they've been hanging on to their job. They've been hanging on to this job because they only have a couple more years until they can receive their pension, let's just say. But even so, for the last 15 years, they've hated it. They've hated it, but yet they push themselves to go to work. What were you saying to yourself every day? And why have you stayed? And what is that attachment to this fear of early retirement or not receive? I mean, I don't know, because I don't work for somebody else, so I don't understand this whole way pensions
Yeah.
work. And
Yeah.
I don't want to judge anybody. I have a lot of friends that are staying at their jobs because they're just like, well, Andrea, it's only 4 more years until we get our the teacher's pension or the this pension. Okay, but you're so unhappy.
That
So
may be
what's
a
I did?
lifetime.
My goodness, you don't know. You don't listen. My husband went to sleep. Okay. I didn't know there wasn't going to be. It was after 18 years of marriage. I had no idea that that was the last. So you don't know. And I think we're always so willing, a little, maybe a little too willing to put off. I don't know. My mother used to have an expression, rest her soul, don't put off for tomorrow what you can take care of
Care of
today.
today.
And that's kind of what it is. It's we're going to identify. I'm going to have you write out, as I said, that synopsis, and we're going to see that story. And then we're going to create the story of what you want. So what do you want? What do you really want? Because we're all afraid to really think about that, aren't we? Because you know what? Somebody said,
Yeah.
oh, Scott, you're too big of a dreamer. No, you're too big of a big thinker. You're too big of a dreamer. It's not good.
Yeah. Because the other reason people perish Old Testament is because they had no vision.
Correct. Because we're so full of, and I can relate to this because it happened to me many different times. where you have all of that confusion. Well, now I understand that the confusion is the enemy.
Yeah.
Because it's certainly not God. So my work, I feel right now, is to really show women who they really are through Christ, who they've allowed themselves to be, and look at yourself with love. Because women, I don't know men, you can answer that one, Scott. Women tend to have a baseball bat, and we like to bash ourselves. I was a crappy mother. I'm not a good enough wife. I was a lousy daughter. Boom, boom, boom. And it's really about having them learn new ways. It's really the same stuff, but it's from a whole new perspective,
Wow.
new vantage point.
Yeah. So let's go a little more business now. So coaching is a business. How do you go about finding clients?
No, that's a good question, because honestly, I feel a little bit stuck myself right now with that, in terms of this whole online world. It's always been very much for me referral based. And yes, I've been able to utilize certain Facebook groups that I was in, that I could, obviously, you just don't want to go out there promoting, hey, work with me and somebody, especially, I mean, it's done in this online
Oh yeah.
space, right? So I use really referral. And now I was doing a Facebook challenge in February, a group that I'm in, which was how I found this group, the Need a Guest podcast group, because I said 2024, when I looked at when I first became a coach, when I first got certified, the coach that I was working with had me do this exercise like an umbrella, open up the umbrella, and each tip would be a part of your business. So at this stage of my game in it, I knew I wanted to move into public speaking. That was really moved less out of coaching, more into speaking and do retreats. So I was thrilled to find the Need a Guest podcast group, because it's allowing me to be able to clarify my message, especially since I've gone through this massive transformation. Like, if you would have spoken to me in 2020, it would have been a very different conversation that you and I would be having. So I still need to be able to find my own level of comfortableness with my verbiage, and not always being so clear when answering questions. But
Mm.
online, yeah, online, you know what? Honestly, Scott, I've been doing this online thing since 2008, and there's so much to it that's like, oh, you want to throw in the towel. It makes me vomit. There's this white noise, and I got really drowned in it, right? So I've had to push that away, because there's more coaches for coaches out there than there's actual coaches for your life.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I believe every coach should have a coach too.
well, no,
Um,
most definitely every coach
yeah.
needs a coach, but we don't all need business coaches. And I think a number of coaches, because it is hard, like I said at the beginning, to explain what a life coach is, especially when the International Coaching Federation deems it like it's not therapy. But guess what? It is a therapeutic
It's
modality.
therapeutic.
It's a therapeutic modality. So it's hard sometimes to really explain this life. You can't, I mean, I give a guarantee, if you're not happy, you're going to get your money back. If I find that you're not coachable, we're going to end the process, because I'm
Yeah.
here to serve. I'm not here to take. But a
Yeah.
business coach, or their marketing coach, they could say, well, I guarantee that your rate of return is going to increase by da 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 after you. Well, I can tell them that if they really follow what I and God, because I've always, with every session, no matter what session, and since I started coaching, I've allowed God to move through me, because I know He has the messages for my clients. So if that client stays the course and does her work and allows herself to trust this process of unfolding, she will receive a level of emotional freedom, because we're seeking that and we need it. And in this flipping crazy world that we live in today, we need it that much more.
Well, yeah, from a business coaching's perspective, you and you mentioned challenges. I think using challenges on social media would be a terrific way for you to help a lot of people, women, and to identify the ones that you should be working with, and to get to your retreats. So I would really encourage you to do that. And there are some great business coaches that are part of my program that don't promise any results unless you, I mean, you just can't. You can't control the actions of your client, so it's really
No.
hard to guarantee
And you
any
can't get them the
results.
results. You can't do the work for a client. So I
You
can't
can
get you,
you can
I
lead a horse to
cannot get
water.
you
You
the
can't make them
make them
drink.
drink. You're right.
Yeah.
Is that a
So
biblical saying? I've always
no,
wondered now.
I don't think it
Oh,
is.
okay.
But I'll dig in and see if I can find some maybe somewhere where it came from. But it will probably go back to Confucius instead. It's we, but this has been really interesting. I had no idea where we would go today, and it's been great. You've talked about how you were shattered and how you've been rebuilt your life through Christ, and now you're rebuilding your coaching business through Christ and using Scripture as your guide. That's really cool. Because we're all about being shatterproof, and the only way to do that is to build your life on the rock of Jesus. And so I'm so happy that you're doing that and teaching other people how to do that. But it's the reason we use the word shatterproof is because it comes from the car glass in your windshield. I believe that small business is the best vehicle to achieve your life goals and dreams. And every vehicle I've ever been in has a windshield that serves two purposes. One is vision, and the other is protection. That windshield gets hit all the time, and it cracks. It gets marked up. It might even get a little hole in it, but it doesn't completely go away and be destroyed usually. And so life is that way too. You're going to have things that hit you in the face, mark you up, and then we go back to the Savior, and He heals us up, and we keep moving. And that's how you build a shatterproof life and a shatterproof business, is that you surround yourself with people like Andrea that are going to lead you back to God and lead you back to Scripture, so that you can make sound decisions and be thinking sound thoughts and learning how to take captive the bad thoughts, so that you can move forward and accomplish the mission and purpose that God's given you. This is man, it's been great, Andrea. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you,
Um,
Scott.
where would they reach out? Because I'm sure there's at least one woman over 50 listening today. Where
I
should
hope
she
so.
reach out?
Or there's somebody who knows her mother needs me. So if you're not over 50 and you've seen your mother struggling, because I know my kids saw me struggling for a long
Yeah,
time, right?
yeah,
And I honestly, I say that with a whole lot of sincerity
yeah.
in that. So you can reach me and you can find me on Facebook. But I have to use my middle name there. So it's Andrea Julia Brunswick on Facebook. And on LinkedIn and on Instagram, it's under Andrea Brunswick.
Okay. So we'll have those links in our show notes, so you guys can go find her. Before we leave, Andrea, I want to bless you. Lord, just thank you for my sister Andrea. Ask that you would bless her in all her work she's doing with women, that she would have insight from your Holy Spirit to guide them and lead them to you and to building shatterproof lives. Lord, thank you for this episode. I hope that everyone finds value in it, and that your kingdom will be furthered. Andrea, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Ladies and
you.
gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have, and found some value in it. And until next week, stay shatterproof. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. While I'm your host, Scott Reed, and a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer, and this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship. The views expressed by my guests are their own and not mine, and they may not even reflect the opinion of the Shatterproof Entrepreneur podcast. So we strive to provide valuable and accurate content, but we make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of any information to your particular situation, and won't be liable for any errors or omissions for the application of them. Always consult a professional or in the respective area that we've discussed before making any personal or business decisions.